This week on Motor Driven, we get excited about the reimagined Lexus IS that is scheduled for arrival in South Africa early in 2021. The English countryside flashes by in the DB11, the second car in our Aston Martin series. And I told you he'd be back. What are your rights as a motorist? That's my discussion this week with Howard Dembovsky. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed last week's show when we were behind the scenes at the Kyalami 9 Hour. Yeah, I know, it's a little bit different to our normal format, but isn't that great? We don't have to conform to traditional broadcasting. We can be 100% indulgent. And talking about indulging, have a look at our feature car this week, the Aston Martin DB11. Let me not get ahead of myself. Let's rather bring you up to speed first with the latest motoring news. I've always really enjoyed the Lexus IS, a solid offering that sadly cruised by under the radar of our German-obsessed South African consumers. With decreasing sales in the sedan segment, I was concerned we weren't going to see the latest version with its sporty redesign. The good news, it will be here in SA in the first quarter of 21. Styling is definitely sleeker, more imposing. The spindle grille is now bigger, the LED headlights sharply angled, and it certainly is more aggressive. I do prefer the darker face in F-Sport guise. The interior layout hasn't changed much at all. Most noticeable is the new 10.3-inch infotainment screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Even the standard 8-inch screen is now also a touchscreen, so you don't have to go and struggle navigating the features via their trackpad, which does remain. They've also ditched the foot brake for a more traditional electronic park brake. Now the wheelbase remains unchanged, but they've widened the track all round, they've increased the rigidity of the body, and they've tweaked the suspension and reduced its weight to deliver a more focused driving experience. 3 derivatives are confirmed for SA, but not how they will be powered. My guess, we'll lose a 2-litre 4-cylinder, and the unchanged hybrid assisted 2.5-litre will power all but the range-topping F-Sport, which retains its 3.5-litre V6. Now, those of you who've been following my motoring career over the years will know that I was never a massive fan of Aston Martin. To be honest, I don't think they really cared. But this car, the DB11, marked a massive change for the company and also my opinion of the brand. Coincidence? I think not. The DB11 was a very important car for Aston Martin when it debuted at Geneva back in 2016. Not only did it obviously replace the DB9, but it was the first car as part of the company's new second century plan, and also the first one since the Daimler tie-in. Now you're probably wondering, DB9, DB11, what happened to the DB10? Well, there was one, but you needed a license to kill to drive it. There was a time when you couldn't tell one Aston Martin from the next, but that all changed in 2016 when the DB11 was brought to market. The brand has been on an aggressive product onslaught, but what I like is there seems to be a clearly defined design language, a unique personality within each of the models that they offer. What a great opportunity then to chat to the man driving the change, the Chief Creative Officer, Marius Grechmann.
When I started 15 years ago, that was very much about establishing the brand again. So it was creating our own platform, building a new factory from 2003, having our bonded aluminium structures. That was the rebirth, if you like, of Aston Martin, the brand. And what we're now doing with the second century plan, which is 7 cars over 7 years under Andy Palmer's leadership, that we're all bought into that plan, and that's the diversity of product that we now have. So if you like, the genesis of creating Aston Martin has now become the genesis of creating individual products within Aston Martin. And they all have their own character, therefore they all have to have their own visual language. It has to have beauty and proportion at its core, which is why we remember DB5. And it's why we remember a DBR1, because they are fundamentally beautiful cars.
Well, if beauty was the goal, then Marius and his team have scored with the DB11. It's instantly recognizable, which is important, but all those familiar elements have just been reimagined. The iconic grille is more prominent, and it forms a starting point for the creases on the clamshell bonnet, which is pressed from a single piece of aluminium. And then you have those standout aero blades, so simple yet so striking. The roof detailing with new strakes separating it from the body can also be specified in black or body color. But it's the rear that really excites me. It's a massive improvement over the DB9, the sleek swish of the taillights emphasizing the width of the flanks. Now all that they've done with the AMR version is taken all the bright bits and darkened them, leaving you with a far moodier DB11. The interior has received the same treatment. The sumptuous natural materials remain, they've just been darkened and carbon fiber has been added. It is a supremely comfortable space you're going to find yourself in, and I really do like the driving position. As I mentioned with the Vantage, I love the squared off leather steering wheel. But most important, it's all been sculptured around an all-new riveted and adhesive bonded aluminium platform.
If I have to pick one of the cars which was the start, if you like, of the second century plan, and it's fundamental to our core, it would have to be DB11. And everything else, of course, is wonderful. Doing Valkyrie, that's such an incredible product. And this car, when it comes out, because it's our first mid-engine car, will also be spectacular for us as well. But DB11 is the car that started all of that. It's the car that makes that change into the second century plan. It's our new platform, our new architecture, if you like. And DB sits at the core of who we are and what we do. DB is, it's the car that James Bond's going to be driving. And DB, if you like, it's synonymous with us. So to replace a DB in that bloodline, that's for me, it has to be DB11.
It received rave reviews from the motoring media, winning the Golden Steering Wheel Award in 2017 for the most beautiful car. But for me, the star of the show is the chassis. The real magic here is the suspension. It's got double wishbones up front, multi-link at the rear, and adaptive dampers, and that's what gives this car this amazing GT personality. You can cruise by, and basically any road condition it's only too happy to absorb. But it's when you put it into sport mode, Sport Plus, that other personality comes out, and that's what they've really done with AMR. They've used their racing experience and they've gone and fiddled around a little bit, and they fiddled in a good way, because the car is just, it feels a little bit sharper, it feels a little bit more precise, and that is what you're looking for when you've got an AMR, Aston Martin Racing badge. I can't believe the level of grip. I know they've got some active aero at work here as well, but the mechanical grip is just absolutely immense. A lot of people with that amount of power would have selected an all-wheel drive system. I love the fact that I'm driving it off the rear, because like that, little adjustments on the steering, so easy to modulate and point this big GT exactly where you want it. So the AMR version has essentially replaced the standard V12, a move the DB purists may not all agree with, but it was necessary given the incredible performance delivered by the 115 kilogram lighter V8 version with its 4-litre twin-turbo engine. The AMR version sees a 22 kilowatt bump up in power to 470 kilowatts, with the torque remaining unchanged at 700 newton meters. So it is quicker to the 100, and it has a higher top speed of 335 kilometers an hour. I really want to try and capture the essence of how this Super GT goes about delivering its sporty drive, because I've said that the performance figures are comparable to a supercar, but when you drive a supercar, it kind of feels like a teenager on a first date. It is so on edge, it's so nervous, it's bouncing around, it's all over the place, youthful exuberance. Whereas in this DB11 AMR, it's experienced, it's mature, it knows what's coming, it knows that it's going to get there, but it's how it gets there that really provides you with such a compelling drive, such a cool experience, so different, so refined. And it makes you wonder why people go for supercars, because I think you've got a lot more versatility here. And I know at the flick of a button I can dial this down completely and get straight back into GT mode. So cool. Which brings us to pricing. Entry into James Bond's world starts at 3.7 million rand. Another 300,000 rand will lose the top, while the range-topping AMR will set you back a cool 4.5 million rand. Driving the British mark in the English countryside, it does not get better than that. And with the Skyhook technology and the 3 driver modes, the GT characteristic remains firmly in place, just with a darker side. Life doesn't get any better than cruising through the English countryside in the DB11. But you know what, Aston Martins do draw a lot of attention. As I found out a couple of weeks back when I was reviewing the Vantage, you guys may have seen the video on YouTube. It was our feature car last week, but I'm not going to subject you to 14 minutes of what can only be described as Swedish drink torture. You don't know what that is? Go and Google it. But it does lead us into a nice introduction to our chat with Howard Dembovsky. Let's have a look. Sorry?
I'm not escorting you, I'm pulling you off.
For what, sorry?
What do you mean for what? What do you mean for what?
What was
what
that?
kind of an answer is that?
I'm not sure what I did wrong.
Every vehicle I feel that I have to pull.
Okay, sorry, I just asked, what was I doing?
You can't ask me for what? You can't ask me that nonsense. Put your car on the side.
I'm going to. I just asked you, what did I do wrong?
Don't start with me, don't try me.
I'm
Put
not
your
doing
car
anything. Now listen, I can't bear to go through that again. I'd much rather talk to you, Howard. I told you we'd have you back, Howard.
Yeah, indeed, you did.
Oh, okay, listen, help me out, yeah? That video, I know you've seen it. You and I had a chat about it. The whole idea was not to say I'm right and Mr. Officer, you are wrong, because I was wrong.
Yeah, both of you were actually.
What did I do wrong?
Well, firstly, the idea of garage plates is not for you to take fancy vehicles on test drives. The idea of garage plates or trade plates, as they actually refer to, is to take a vehicle for repair and nothing more.
Now that is interesting because I mean we've been in the game for a long time, and it's not the first time we've had cars that we filmed with trade plates on, and obviously usually we've got a plate shown somewhere. I didn't know that, and I wonder how many of the manufacturers realize that. A lot of the press cars we get, most of them, are fully licensed, registered cars. But I suppose that's also what you do with a car that you don't want to register, because then you're always selling it as new.
Yeah, indeed. But there's nothing to stop a dealer or a motor manufacturer from getting temporary plates and affixing them to the car. That allows you to operate a motor vehicle. Okay, so a temporary permit. It's not temporary plates. It's that little piece of paper that goes on your back windscreen that usually falls down in the back of your vehicle.
Whereas I had the plate, which is what the problem is. What I want to try and focus on in our chat today is that it comes down to our rights. And a lot of people are kind of saying, oh, you were right or you were wrong in terms of how you approached it. I know I could have handled things a little bit differently. But my attitude was, for me, defined by his approach. The minute I asked him, I didn't realize, am I being pulled over? What did I do wrong? I asked a simple question. Surely officers trained in law are there to diffuse situations. I could have been drunk, I could have had a gun, I could have been a complete arsehole. And that situation could have got completely out of hand. Surely those officers are the ones that are meant to be the peacekeepers and know how to deal with a situation like that.
Well, remarkably, in terms of the law, they're called police officers. So I think that's the biggest oxymoron you could wish to come across, because very few of them approach things in a peaceful manner. The fact is that they should have better interpersonal skills. The fact is that you are not entitled to ask him why you are being pulled over.
No, man.
The National Road Traffic Act is very clear.
That's nonsense.
If a traffic officer tells you to pull over, you must pull over. You have no right to ask him why, okay, or her, obviously. The fact is that most people want to know, what the hell have I done wrong here? And one needs to have the interpersonal skills to say to this person, look, I'll explain to you when you've pulled over, but please just pull over.
Yeah.
It doesn't take any effort to be courteous.
Howard, I think that from my perspective as well. I mean, unmarked car, you know, for me, I assumed, and I'm assuming I'm correct, an unmarked car is the blue light brigade. And I still made the comment, because literally I had 2 cars I moved over for earlier in the shoot. So is it a cop? I mean, are these the sort of things I'm trying to establish what we as motorists need to be aware of? Because the situation in South Africa is quite sad, is that I should be trusting of a police officer or a traffic officer. But my attitude is wrong. The minute I see a cop, I don't trust them. I've got a bad attitude towards them because of all the stuff I hear in the press and the experiences that I've had. That's wrong, but is it justified?
But you see, that's the problem. When you have legitimate cops acting badly, that's a whole different situation. But you can buy, as a common criminal, you can buy all of the paraphernalia that traffic cops and police actually require.
Yeah.
You can even buy marked motor cars or rent them, and machine guns, and the whole bank shoot caboodle. Now, we've had all these horror stories, and they've gone back decades now,
Yeah.
of blue light brigade, organized criminals pulling people over under the auspices of being police, and then either assassinating them, kidnapping them, raping them,
Yeah.
stealing their possessions, stealing their vehicles, etc., etc. And unfortunately, our authorities are completely insensitive to this issue. In fact, Brigadier Vish Naidu had the audacity to say to a journalist, you people must stop undermining the authority of the state. Now, quite frankly, I remember a chappie who used to go saying that kind of thing.
You do that well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, but you know what? There are realities that need to be faced, and unfortunately, our authorities need to start facing those realities. We urgently need some form of intervention, particularly when it comes to our unmarked vehicles
Yeah.
displaying blue flashing lights.
I want to clear this up, that we're not saying that, you know, all those cops in unmarked cars are involved in criminal activity, but there are criminals that are capitalizing on that situation, and that creates that uncertainty. Now, this was middle of the day. I mean, what should I have done? What would my rights have been if that was at night, if I was a woman? I had quite a few people commenting and saying, listen, we've had stories where my mother drove straight to the police station. I know you were one of the guys saying that that's what you should do.
Yep.
What are our rights? If it is now at night, there's a blue light behind me, what can I do?
Well, the fact is, back in 2013, I wrote the blue light protocol and had it endorsed by the Road Traffic Management Corporation, where we told people, if you're not certain, put on your hazard lights, indicate to the traffic cops to
I've
follow
seen you. Yeah.
Okay, drive at no more than 40 kilometers an hour to the nearest police station or other place of safety, like a garage where there's CCTV cameras, etc. And what has the result been? People have been pulled out of their cars and beaten up, manhandled by traffic cops, particularly in Tshwane, funnily enough, because they seem to be quite violent. But go to Ekurhuleni, you're going to get pepper sprayed and kicked the living crap out of.
Yeah.
So the fact is that this insensitivity exists, and we need an urgent intervention to this. And I think that we as motorists, believe it or not, there are actually 13 million of us. Okay, we should start insisting that we do actually have rights, and those rights should be written into law. Because if they're not written into law, they are informal and nobody has to follow them, and that is the problem.
I'm glad you've said that, because for me it just feels like maybe it's done on purpose. There's a lot of grey area. There's a lot of we're leaving it open to interpretation, and that then either allows me to bend the rules as a motorist, or it allows too much power in the hands of the officers. And that's kind of what that whole situation felt like, because at the end of the day, he asked if I've got a license. you should have written a fine because I didn't have my license with me.
Your driving license card.
My driving license card. He
Yep.
asked me 3 times, but the minute I saw him get out the car, he'd never brought a fine book.
Yep.
So I know this is not about, listen, sir, I'm going to write you a fine. My attitude's different then. Issue the fine because I know. But when a guy comes to me with no fine book, then what is he coming? What is the story? But we as motorists, I think, are intimidated, and a lot of people won't deal with it like I did, possibly by standing up to him. Good thing that I had a camera on. What do we tell people? I know you're saying we as motorists are rights and blah, blah, but I mean, in that situation, it's pretty scary for someone. What would you do if the roles were reversed, if you were in my position?
I would try and de-escalate it because the first person that starts shouting is going to lose. Okay. So imagine you yelling at me and I start talking in a lowered, slower voice to you. Okay. What are you going to do? You're going to keep on yelling at me and calling me a complete prick. Is that what you're going to do? Hey, is that what you're going to do?
So cool.
Okay. Or here I come and I say, sorry, officer, I was just asking a simple question. Your voice was raised. Okay. So we need to get sensitize ourselves to these types of things and prepare for them in advance. The possibility of you being in that situation, although rare, does exist. So just prepare ahead of time and say, how am I going to handle this situation? And to answer your question regarding the fine book, what you did was a criminal offense. You could have been arrested, slapped in handcuffs, and spent the night with Bubba in a police cell.
For which part?
Okay, for driving a motor vehicle without displaying number plates on it. Okay. Even if you had motor trade plates, it is an offense to drive that vehicle outside of the parameters of taking it for repair. So you could have been slapped in handcuffs.
So he was right when he said to me, you can actually arrest me for this. Because I was saying
he was
to him,
completely correct.
You're teaching me something new. What I don't think it was the fact that I'm driving with trade plates. I think it was you don't have plates on. Because I think if he got there and I had trade plates in the front window, there wouldn't have been an issue. I don't think he would have said I can arrest you. I think it was more case.
He might have. He might not have. He might have. He might not have. But the fact is that there were a number of offences that were committed. Okay, and one of them is hindering a police officer or a peace officer in the execution of his or her duties. Be very, very careful.
What do you mean by that? What did I do there?
Just by talking back to that guy. Okay.
It's always going to be a problem for me.
Exactly. So best you tone it down. Practice talking quietly and slowly and really getting underneath the oaks.
But Howard, that comes from, I know, and I said in the thing, I could have handled that better. I could have just shut up and said, I'm so sorry, sorry. But I think it comes from that, like, that frustration. Like we don't, I don't know, I don't look at them with respect. It's bad to say, because I don't look at a police officer and go, oh, I respect this guy because I know he's going to be by the book, or I'm going to be prosecuted in the correct way. And that's bad. That's what I mean. Our attitudes are wrong. We're either on the back foot or we're fearful.
But that's because of the negative publicity that's arisen out of traffic officers in particular, metro cops more so, abusing people. Okay. Now, I'd like to just draw a distinction here and say not all of them are abusive.
100%. I've had great running.
Some of them are absolutely fantastic. Some. Okay, but I think that the bad apples are actually starting to overtake. Look, let me give you an example. If I give you 1 million litres of fine red wine, and I take that 1 million litres and I dump 1 litre of pure sewage into that, you are going to have 1,000,001 litres of sewage. Okay, and that is the difficulty that we face. Let's stop talking about it's only some rotten apples. Let's get these people out of the service. Let's be very, very careful and understand that these people have killed people by pulling firearms and shooting at them needlessly. And this kind of behavior is not what we should be allowing or expecting from law enforcement officers.
Final thing. Dash cams. I mean, I was recording that whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that changed how things played out. I thought when I said that I'm recording, he might, okay, well, let's just leave this whole thing, but he was quite happy to be on camera. Do you encourage dash cams? Or
Absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely. Today, you know, there used to be a time when having GPS in your vehicle was something that only the rich and famous had. Okay? It then became a necessity if you didn't want to find yourself getting hijacked at the side of the road while looking in your map book.
Yeah.
Today, having a dash cam in your vehicle has so many different advantages, provided that the dash cam that you get is very efficient in nighttime performance, very high resolution, and has front-facing and rear-facing cameras, because you need to record interactions like that. And it can de-escalate the situation. Pulling your cell phone out and sticking it in a traffic cop's face. Quite frankly, if I did that to you, you'd probably murder me.
100%.
To be honest with you.
It's going to aggravate the situation as opposed to...
So don't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But on another score, okay, let me be 100% honest, because I don't like being disingenuous with people. If someone comes up behind me with blue flashing lights in an unmarked motor vehicle, I personally will not stop. And pull a firearm on me, it is the last thing you will do.
We're living in pretty scary times. Howard, I'm glad we've had this discussion. I said it when I posted the video too. This was obviously with JMPD, and I've encouraged them to, let's get together. I mean, it'd be great to have them here. We can have a discussion about things like this, because I think there's definitely need for both sides to improve in terms of how we engage with people. And it's interactions. Smile, be polite, be courteous. That's what I did wrong. So Howard, thanks for pointing that out. And a lot of rules and regulations as well that I was unaware of. So thanks for educating me on that as well. That's it for this week's show. What I want to say is, if you've got any questions, any comments related to this, please send it to us. Our details are obviously on screen, and we'll see if we can help you answer those questions.
Let me screw you over.
I'd rather be screwed.
When you got your learner's license, think back to it. How many charges did they test you on that you could be charged for in terms of the National Road Traffic Act and its regulations?
But I wouldn't even remember. I only remember the laws that felt for me critical to how a car operates and in a safe manner. What is it now?
So what if I told you that currently, in terms of the auto charge book, as it's called, there are more than 2,000 different offences that you can commit. Going forward with the Auto Amendment Act, it's been doubled to almost 4,000. So guess what, Sunshine? You don't know dick about what you can be fined for. And I want to make that very clear to people. So please, just when you drive like a granny rather than like a Windgat.
It's a good, you don't get tested for that either. There's no
Exactly.
ways in that license. Howard,
No.
thanks. I mean, I think we've had you on previously. I think we're going to keep having you on, because you shoot straight, which I really appreciate. And again, that call to you guys. Drop us your questions, comments, and let's see how we can help you. That's it for this week's episode of Motor Driven. Hope you have enjoyed the show. This is what you can look forward to next week. It's a beautiful show as we admire the winner of the 2020 Car Design Award. We conclude our three-part Aston Martin special by going top down in the beautiful DBS. And we meet the team behind Drifari. So they may not be beautiful, but the locations and production on their show certainly is.